Has anyone fancied the tourism activity of shark cage diving? Submerging yourself in a reinforced steel cage into an unforgiving cold water at 10 feet deep, as the proprietor will proceed with shark baiting to allow you to go face to face with real life sharks. Can you imagine the amount of risk assessment and management for such activity? Although there had only been one notable accident in South Africa in 2005, where a great white shark managed to bite through the cage and a British tourist was hanging on the fringe of a fatal shark attack. Dangerous Animals is an Aussie creature feature which put this daunting endeavour into focus before you realised that the sharks were the last thing you had to be wary about. After a major swerve in the prologue about the shark cage diving went wrong for a pair of American tourists in Gold Coast, another American free-living surfer who was chasing the wave survived on breads, lived solely in her own version of the Mystery Machine van, and would hook up with Gold Coast's very own version of Peter Andre, who dressed like a Mormon missionary. Even our surfer with the very pretentious name of Zephyr had described this choice of attire. A night of passion between Zephyr and the aptly named local lad Moses. This was not a requisite to make the relationship exclusive, as Zephyr went to chase the waves, as it was her only salvation in life, and no man, especially one that looked like a Mormon Peter Andre, would change her mind. A chance encounter with the shark cage diving proprietor Tucker, played by the only notable actor in the small cast, Jai Courtney, and the craziness will ensue. From the trailer, we already have a massive clue that Tucker was the main antagonist in this plot. But what drove Tucker to commit the heinous acts, and at what limits he went into? We will have a glimpse, as Dangerous Animals was a platform for Courtney to give the most gravitas in whatever limited amount of performances I had seen from him. Sydney native Courtney first came into prominence in the Sword and Sandal series Spartacus, Blood and Sand as Varos in the year 2010. Then in 2012, he landed the role of Jack McClane as John Sand in A Good Day to Die Hard, which was not a good end to the franchise. Rumours were brewing that he was supposed to take over the franchise, but he was awfully bland and was lacking any sort of charisma opposite Bruce Willis. Courtney had been groomed since the late 2000s with the likes of Charlie Hunnam, Taylor Kitsch, and Armie Hammer to be the next batch of leading men, and all failed considerably. It felt like those who jumped on the superhero bandwagon with the likes of Chris Hemsworth, Henry Cavill, and Channing Tatum got a better opportunity in their leading man career. The Aussie hunk would divert into more memorable villainous roles like Eric in the Divergent movies and Gideon in I, Frankenstein. He also took the role of Kyle Reese in Terminator Genisys and Captain Boomerang in the Suicide Squad. I had totally forgotten about the existence of Jai Courtney until he showed up here, looking buffed up as compared to him previously, looking like Jon Favreau in khaki shorts and had an Aussie accent. There was an intensity in Tucker that made Dangerous Animals a difficult watch. He had his Buffalo Bill moments, and he was whacked as a Travis Bickle. He had shown no pretension for a single moment to act nice in front of his captives. He fed them because he needed to sustain them enough for his main event, which involved his specialty with the shark cage diving, shark baiting. It was gruesome what Tucker had concocted, and terribly distressing to sit through the whole procession, leading to the victim being decimated into chum. Although this was no way a BBC Nature documentary with Sir David Attenborough on narration, I was properly educated on how baiting and the whole activity of the shark cage diving had changed the mentality of sharks in the region. Their feeding pattern had changed a lot with human intervention, and this made a lot of activists going up at arms about the trade as well. The whole aspect of Tucker trying to control the narrative of his ghastly fetish by manipulating the shark's behaviour, which rebounded badly on him, was a nice moment in the midst of the smouldering tension. It certainly felt like Tucker wanted everything under his control, and through sequences like him driving off in intense fury when his meticulous plan was scuppered, showed that there was a chink in his armour. Our heroine Zephyr, played by actress Hassie Harrison, was, as described by Tucker himself, to be tough as nail and had an incredible will to survive when everything was stacked against her. Zephyr's background was already well baited out to highlight how street smart she was and possessed the dexterity to worm out from any difficult situations. However, against a burly captor almost twice her body weight and constantly overpowering her, and had been administering drugs into her system with very little nourishment, it was amazing how she still had the gumption to go toe to toe even when trapped in a corner. After constantly pissing off Tucker with her antics, there was an unyielding desire in him to put Zephyr through what's supposed to be his magnum opus, and Mother Nature would deliver for him, which sent him into a brink of pure ecstasy. The climactic showdown was the piece de resistance after the roller coaster of emotions, seeing the tug of war unwinding on screen between Tucker and Zephyr. Back to Moses. He tried to play the part of the savior, but as predicted, was more of a hindrance than help, and even had to be rescued at the very end. If my calculation is right, Dangerous Animals might be the fourth review of an Aussie horror feature since the inauguration of KK's Horror Heretics channel. Unlike Late Night with the Devil, Sting, and Bring Her Back, Dangerous Animals had its backdrop set at Gold Coast, Queensland, and fostered a threat that could hit close to home for many Australian audience, more so than the other recent movies from Down Under. This is the third directorial effort from Sean Bryne. His directorial debut was 2009's The Loved Ones, which as described was a demented prom movie when a psychotic high school girl could not accept no as an answer. His follow-up movie was 2015's The Devil's Candy with Ethan Embry, a royalty in horror movies. It was a suburban American horror pandering between supernatural and psychological threats, and not exclusive from one another. Bryne did not write Dangerous Animals, with the screenplay written by Nick Leppert, but his artful unleashing of viscera on screen was always on point and put his audience in an awfully cringe manner, yet could not keep their eyes away from what was going to happen next. Dangerous Animals was a spectacular cross-genre with survival from both a psychopath with almost no frailty and one of Earth's greatest predator, which if you put yourself as foot in its natural environment, what makes you think you can easily evade the attack? At the end of the movie, you cannot deny the tension the filmmaker had generated, and after the movie, it would take an effort to slow down that intense heart pounding. Dangerous Animals is an under-the-radar horror masterpiece from a talented filmmaker of the genre. I am awarding the film an 8.5 out of 10. There was no shark attack movie that could measure up with 1975's Jaws, yet every time seeing a looming underwater shadow of a shark, especially below an unsuspecting victim, it never fails to drive the panic response from audience. Do click a like if you have that innate response in you with shark attack movies, and subscribe to this channel to see what other creature features could elicit the same response from me. Do you like modern Asian horror movies Netflix had offered on the streaming platform? I did an Asian Trips review of Siam, Sing Salt, and Wall to Wall. Go have a poke and see if anyone will pick your interest. Seeing Courtney acting psychotic, feeding people to shark suddenly made me want to see someone like Taylor Kitsch going crazy with ammunition on a boat of his own. Oh wait, he did that in Battleship.